What's going on, guys? I'm Dan. This is Santa Wars, and today we have a review for you from the House of Parfums Vintage. But before we go any further, how about you hit the subscribe button and hit that bell? So now that summer's in full swing, Parfums Vintage came out with a whole lineup of summer-inspired fragrances by other niche and designer fragrances. So this review is on Citrus No.1 and Citrus No.1 Intense. What are these inspired by? No other than Xerjoff Neo. Just to be clear, Parfums Vintage did send me these samples out just to test them out and see what I like. But in the same breath, these two fragrances I did purchase myself. Before I go any further, how about I give you the notes? For the top notes, you have pink pepper, bergamot, and neroli. For the mid, you have cardamom, nutmeg, jasmine, and cedar. And for the base, you have gaiac, vetiver, patchouli, and amber. And for the intense, it's all the same notes, but just amped up. When it comes to the presentation, same box that you get with all the rest of them, except for this one is black, and one says intense, the other one is just the regular Citrus No.1. Back mural, same stuff on the back, blah, blah, blah. For the presentation of the bottles, you have the same style bottles that all the rest of the Parfums Vintage fragrances run in, and these new type of labels that I think they started putting on, I think the beginning of this year. At the bottom, you have the concentration and the name of the fragrance, Citrus No.1 Intense and Citrus No.1. Wood caps. Sprayer, beast, like always. Like I said at the beginning, Citrus No.1 and Citrus No.1 Intense are Parfums Vintage take on Xerjoff Neo. I don't have a full bottle, but I just have a sample from myfragrancesamples.com. This is not sponsored by them whatsoever. So Citrus No.1 and Citrus No.1 Intense. How close are they to Xerjoff Neo? I'll let you know in a few seconds. My first sniff for Xerjoff Neo. Very citrusy, have somewhat of a spicy background. That is a very clean fragrance that I feel works perfect for the summer heat and also the springtime heat. Early fall as well. But the citrus and the spiciness background, not so spicy like a spice bomb or anything like that, but it has a slight kick to it. It's very clean, very inviting, and just that spiciness gives it a little bit of depth, in my opinion. Xerjoff Neo is a very nice, complex type of fragrance. Not too complex. When it comes to citrus fragrances, it's more of the complex type. Just because of that spicy aspect to it. There's no point in me holding up both bottles because they both look the same. So let's just refer to this one bottle, which as of right now is Citrus No.1. But for argument purposes, this is both intense and the regular. So Citrus No.1, how close is it to Xerjoff Neo? I feel that in the opening, it lacks the spicy kick to it that Neo has at the beginning. The spiciness does kick up a little bit more further into the dry down, where it somewhat gets closer to Xerjoff Neo, but never really fully embodies the same exact DNA that Xerjoff Neo has with its spicy kick. This complexity, in my opinion, compared to most citruses. Xerjoff Neo has a little bit more of a green aspect to it than Citrus No.1 does, both the intense and the regular. Not that that's a bad thing, but all in all, this is a good representation. If someone were to smell this in the air, I don't think anybody could tell the difference unless they really are a frag head like most people in the fragrance community are. I personally feel that Citrus No.1 and Citrus No.1 Intense are both great alternatives to Xerjoff Neo. Citrus No.1 I feel is a great outdoor fragrance that is good for casual settings, not so much of a formal settings. It's office friendly, very clean, non-offensive in my opinion, because since the spiciness is kicked back a little bit, it makes it more versatile and where people will be less offended. I did a little side-by-side test of the fragrances. It seemed like the Citrus No.1 regular outweighed the intense, which didn't make sense to me. But when I actually did them separately, like smelled this one, waited 5 minutes, smelled the intense, it smelled like the intense was a little bit more intense and stronger and had the more deeper notes. But side by side, like one after the other, it seemed like the Citrus No.1, the regular, just seemed a little bit more, had more pop to it. When it came to projection, I had for the regular about an hour and a half to 2 hours of projection. Longevity lasted me like about 5 hours. When it came to Citrus No.1 Intense, I had about 2 hours to 2.5 hours of projection, and longevity about 6 to 7 hours. Given Citrus No.1 and Citrus No.1 Intense a rating 1 out of 10, just combined I give them a solid 8. I like the citrus fragrance. It's a very clean, non-offensive fragrance that I feel would work for any age group, and honestly I feel it's a very unisex fragrance that anybody can wear. Even my girl likes this one a lot. So there you go, guys. That's my take on Citrus No.1 and Citrus No.1 Intense. Have you guys smelled this fragrance? Have you guys smelled Xerjoff Neo? To compare it, have you tried any of these new fragrances from Parfums Vintage? Let me know in the comment section. Almost forgot, Citrus No.1 and Citrus No.1 Intense samples. Giveaway time. I haven't done one in a while, so if you like the video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe, and hit that bell. And let me know in the comment section that you want to be entered for these samples. Let me know. Citrus No.1 and Citrus No.1 Intense. Solid scents from Parfums Vintage. But at the end of the day, still scented water.